Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen of Pop Culture. Mighty Thor Monday. We have, we're taking a departure again. We're leaving the departure. I've done another Balder the Brave. I was all ready to do Balder the Brave number 4, but there is a bit at the very end of it that would spoil something in the Thor comics. So, we're going back to Thor for maybe about 3 weeks here. And then we will eventually do that 4th Balder the Brave video, which are getting terrible numbers, so holding off on it doesn't bother me too much. This is Thor number 363 from January of, good Lord, are we in 86, right? January of 1986. Oh, goody, it's a Secret Wars 2 crossover. I sure do love those. They were so great. Anyhow, Kurse, he's the Beyonder's gift to Thor. And this actually stems off of a story that was in Power Pack that involved Beta Ray Bill. We're not going to be looking at all that. It stems off some of the stuff going on with the Beyonder. But we begin with Kurse. He had fought Thor in the land of Fairy, and had ended up down a shaft with lava and all that kind of stuff. He was brought back by the Beyonder to test Thor, ends up fighting Beta Ray Bill. And Beta Ray Bill is almost, killed by the guy. Power Pack intervenes, and they actually sort of defeat him by dropping a building on him. But that is not the end of it. And before we go any further, Walt Simonson, art and story, John Workman, lettering, Max Shield, colors, Ralph Macchio, editing, Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. So Kurse erupts from the wreckage, looking for more battle, because that's sort of what the guy does. He exists solely to destroy, to defeat Thor, who, of course, he believes is the author of all of his problems. At that moment, or right around that moment, Thor arrives in Midgard. He had come from Asgard. He had just done that foray into hell, had rescued the mortal souls that had been stolen by Malekith, and he's bringing them now back to Midgard. And so we get that dealt with in this one page. You notice he's still got his face covered because of the wounds that he suffered from Hela. He wants to get this done, and then, and then deal with those wounds. That's what he's really hoping for. He lands. He walks out of this alley, and he's accosted by these two guys, a couple bums, basically. What have you ever done for guys who haven't got 2 dimes to rub together? Yeah. What have you ever done for us? This is just not what he needed to hear right now. And he turns on them. Why, thou ignorant fools, who art thou to despise those who have set their lives at hazard to safeguard this world and all who inhabit it? While ye slept here in safety, I stood in the halls of death itself. Again, talking about challenging Hela. And this kind of sets Thor to thinking about, what am I doing here? Have they been right all along? Should I abandon Midgard? Just go back to Asgard, stay with the other gods? This is it. I'm done. I mean, he isn't making that choice yet, but he's thinking about it. And then Kurse arrives while he's brooding. And for a moment, he sees in the window kind of what he once was and is no longer. And he's picturing that fight with Thor. And it kind of drives him bonkers. And he's shouting Thor's name. He wants revenge. Meanwhile, Power Pack, having dropped a building on somebody, and they're sort of out late at night with Franklin Richards. They're not supposed to be. They come across a body because it occurs to them they might have hurt people in what they did, and they're looking to see if they can find anybody. Well, they find this guy lying on the ground. Now, we know that is Beta Ray Bill in his non-heroic guise. He was hard-pressed, and the only way he escaped Kurse was to revert back to his normal form. because Kurse is sort of keyed in on somebody who looks like Thor. He didn't like doing it, but he's at this point still so weak that he really can't get up and move around. Well, they need to do some scouting. She's going to do it because she's like light speed, so she's very fast. We flip over to Asgard. We have the castle of Loki, and we see him on this sort of, I don't know, kind of looks like a laser gun of some kind with a sight, and he sees this woman ironing. He says, "I have begun my most audacious experiment." And silently, a beam of energy hurtles toward Earth faster than the mind can imagine. And we see it going past this weird floating headquarters, whatever, sanctum of the Beyonder. And he is pondering what happened. He sees Kurse arrive at Thor. He finds Thor. And he said, well, I'm kind of done with Kurse. Didn't really get that much, didn't learn that much from his anger. But he's like, well, I could just take the energy I gave him away, return him to his former state. But, well, why not just let him finish fighting Thor? Because part of the Beyonder's issue is he's super powerful, but he's sort of amoral. He doesn't understand morality in the least. It's what he's trying to learn, at least partly trying to learn on Earth. Well, Kurse hits Thor, and it's a goodie. And Thor comes back with Mjolnir, and we get a fight. But what Thor's finding out is this dude's a lot more powerful than he would have expected. And he kind of figures out pretty soon, early on, who this is, even though he looks different. So he's really going to be hard-pressed in this battle. Back on Asgard, Hildy and her friends are playing, and what do they discover in this valley but the sword of Surtur, the one that he dropped in battle with Odin, with some kind of device that seems to be siphoning energy from it. More on that later. Back to Thor. He's kind of getting whooped. He manages to get away, get to his chariot, and he puts on his belt of strength. Now, this is another element of Norse mythology that is now making its way. Well, I don't think that it was maybe in before. Maybe it was, but it is an element of Norse mythology that we don't normally get with Thor. And that was that Thor had special gloves and special belt that allowed him to wield Mjolnir. In the comics, Mjolnir is lightning, straight up. It's just lightning in the form of a hammer. So he needed something special to wield it. It wasn't like you had to be super good in order to lift. That's all Marvel Comics. So he had this belt of strength, though. He puts that on, and that now puts him maybe even a little more powerful than Kurse. And Beyonder, sorry. I'm a D&D guy. Beyonder shows up, and he sees what's happening, and he's like, how about that? So he goes, well, what if I go ahead and even the odds again? So all of a sudden, Thor's back in the position that he was, and he is getting his rear end handed to him by Kurse. We get some nice, floating heads here, old staple of comic books, but you can see that Thor is in really bad shape here. And he realizes this could be the end for him, and so be it, if that's what it's going to be. But then some friends show up, Beta Ray Bill and Power Pack, and the little girl there is powering up, and she launches this blast at Kurse that sort of knocks him back, doesn't stop him, okay? When that happens, though, this is kind of the interesting bit. When it happens, Kurse starts to remember something. And he realizes, he sees Malekith. Malekith? So he's distracted for a moment, and he says, what does Kurse feel? What does Kurse feel? And then he realizes Malekith is the one who threw him in the pit. And he has now focused all of his rage away from Thor and away from Beta Ray Bill. And it's all going to be focused now on Malekith, who, of course, was imprisoned in Asgard. I'm trying to think if he got away at this point, but at any rate. Okay, well, that's good. He's not trying to kill Thor at this point. However, he's still on a rampage in New York. People are in danger. So Thor says, Beta Ray Bill, power up here. I got a plan. It may not be great, but it might work. It might take him out. So what he's going to do is have Katie there, Energizer, power up off of their magic hammers. And Beta Ray Bill asks, what will happen to them? In truth, Bill, I do not know. We may lose them forever and our power with them. And the child, I do not know that either, but I think it our only chance. Are you ready? Oh, one of the little girls says, are you ready, baby? They always called her baby. And you see her powering up off of these two magic hammers. And it's like almost more than she could take. She finally lets the power go and whack, hits Kurse dead on and takes him out. But, it does, in fact, drain the hammers, at least initially. That's when the Beyonder finally shows up. And again, he's now gotten this example of heroism and sacrifice. They were willing to give up their power to save people's lives. And he says, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do that. And of course, it's not going to go well when the Beyonder decides to do that. And so he gets rid of Kurse, and he decides to put the power back into their hammers. He's going to maybe become a superhero now. But again, this is a guy who's ultimately amoral. And it sounds from the way he's talking that his plan is actually to maybe, seize control of the earth, make people be good. Well, Thor has finally ended this threat. He needs to go, I think, to Avengers Mansion. And this woman, this housewife, appears. Oh, I'm so glad you haven't gone yet. I saw your fight with that awful creature, and I just wanted to tell you how wonderful you are. You saved us all. And wait till I tell the girls I actually kissed you. They'll be so jealous. When she does, oof. That's funny. What am I doing here? I was just in the middle of ironing. Somewhere in Asgard, it worked. And my little catspaw has no memory of what just happened. The trap is sprung and Loki has achieved his most brilliant jest. Ribbit. Folks, it's the classic for, witches and evil wizards. Thor has been turned into a frog. This is a somewhat infamous storyline. I enjoy it. It is a momentary escape from the heavier Asgard stuff that's been going on. But it's also classic fairy tale with, like I said, people being turned into frogs. And it's possible because Loki was tapping into the power in that sword, Twilight. So there we have it, folks. The Mighty Thor, number 363 from January of 1986. We have Kurse show up, and he ultimately kind of ends up back where he was. So he's not gone forever at this point. It's a comic book universe. We don't like to do that. But we have this new wrinkle for Thor that just as Asgard is preparing to choose a new king, he has been turned into a frog. And we will see in the next issue or two what happens with that. Let me know in the comments what you think of this one. I would love to hear from you. Great cover, of course, by the way, by Walt Simonson. And look at that. We got Beta Ray Bill, Thor. Of course, there we have Thor, with the cape and with his face not all wrapped up. Which makes you wonder if some of this hadn't been done as a fill-in issue, but then it has the frog thing, but I don't know. Cover-wise, you would think it would, but maybe they just said, well, people won't know what's going on with Thor, so just make him look normal. Who knows? Anyways, really great cover. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like, subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That would be very, very groovy. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there, and I will see you again hopefully soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.